Delighted to say today, joining us, given there are actually quite a lot of sort of international affairs and defence issues in the news, is the one and only Philip Ingram MBE, former senior military intelligence officer. Lovely to see you again.
Morning.
We missed you
Good to be
last
back.
week,
Yes.
and great to have you here. I want to ask you just first about Epstein and move it on from, because that's the big news overnight. Donald Trump has signed that bill into law, and now there are 30 days now for the Epstein files to be released by his government. There's a lot of people pointing out that he could have actually just released them anywhere at any time. Full agreement from the Senate, full agreement from the House of Representatives. Move on. What do you think we are going to learn from these?
More sensational isms about people we probably haven't heard of. I think they've got the main stuff out with
because people won't. Andrew Trump, Clinton.
Exactly.
He denied any allegations. I must clarify.
There might be some of that, but the length of time it's taken has given plenty of time for all of these very, very powerful people to ensure that those elements of the files have either been redacted or disappeared. They're not on file anymore.
Will that have happened?
Oh, almost certainly. Almost certainly.
He's a former senior military intelligence officer. I mean, there was this view that, given that, the whole MAGA thing was like the conspiracy and you need to release the Epstein files, and Donald Trump had, he's on record, the man had terminated his friendship with Epstein. And this whole thing, there are pictures of everyone who's famous with Epstein. He got pictures with everyone who's famous. He was a very rich, very powerful man. He went to every party. If you were in Florida or in New York, you went to something at the same time as Epstein. So, we shouldn't read too much into that. But there was the view that when he didn't release those files, that there must be something on Donald Trump.
Well, yes, but whenever there's no information, people fill vacuums with whatever they want to fill it with, and they'll try and make it as sensational as possible, because those that are doing it are after clicks.
There's no doubt at all. Anyone who's sort of looked into this at all, and you even have to watch something, it's a brilliant Netflix 4-part documentary. Anyone who doesn't know what's going on, I mean, really, everybody knew that this guy had a thing for underage girls, right? His house was full in New York of underage girls. Again, clearly 13, 14-year-old. You see the pictures of, Virginia Giuffredos. They're clearly not adults, right? They're clearly, she was 17 when she's alleged she had sex with consensually, even though she was trafficked with Prince Andrew. But the 13, 14, 15-year-old girls was his thing, okay? The Lolita Express, the plane to his island. Again, there are so many staff, so many police investigations, there's so much evidence from so many women with the same stories again and again and again, and so much other evidence that this was what was going on, phone records, And
it's almost certain he did not commit suicide.
I'm so glad you agree. I mean, you know me, I'm not a conspiracy theorist about anything. The idea that a very, very, very wealthy, powerful man who's got out of every scrape so far would think that he wouldn't get it. The idea is, well, he realised his life was over. He'd been done before. He'd negotiated it down, and he basically served no time in a real prison at all. And
I suspect the only reason why Ghislaine Maxwell is still alive is that she's got something that, if she dies, will come out, and those very powerful people have no control over that.
And when you say powerful people, who are we talking about? Are we talking about security services? Or are we talking about, I don't know, the mafia? I mean, who are we talking about?
Well, you just look at the circles that he associated himself with, and it's all famous people, powerful people, politicians. We've seen Andrew Windsor being put in there. There will be other people.
And these are people who've got lots to do. I mean, look, we read stories in the papers all the time, don't we? About, say, someone who, I'm always fascinated by this story, someone who's killed their wife for sort of 200 grand insurance. You think 200 grand? You think that was worth the risk of going to spend the rest of your life in prison? Quite apart from taking a human life, But these people have got a whole life. A whole reputation, billions of dollars tied up in not being exposed. There are people who will pay to make that go away.
Yes, and these are people that don't actually have to say anything directly. They can just suggest that something, a problem disappears, and they know nothing about it, and the problem disappears.
Well, there we are then. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Do you think we're going to learn anything from the Epstein files? There's the big question, and I got some big question marks about quite a lot of people who travel to that island. I've got a question mark about anybody, including Prince Andrew, Peter Mandelson, and others. Although Peter Mandelson, as we know, had no interest interest in underage girls. I mean, we know that for sure.
Well, yes, but if they're underage girls, there hasn't been anything that comes out to say there's underage boys or anything else there. But it wouldn't surprise me.
No, but of course we're not making that allegation. I need to make that very, very clear. But anyone who continued to be friends with, have contact with Epstein after he did actually get convicted for soliciting underage girls for trafficking, for prostitution. I mean, it was one count, but that was because it was pleaded down. Everyone knows, and everyone who knew him would have known that involved dozens and dozens and dozens of girls. And again, let's not lose sight. I mean, the tittle tattle that we are talking about, girls. I've got a teenage daughter. The idea that 5 years ago she would have been forced to give massages and have sex with middle-aged men under first threat. I mean, just absolutely makes me feel physically sick, And we need to remember the reality of this. These are little girls who had their childhood stolen from them. Let's also talk about another lovely man, Vladimir Putin, because Donald Trump. I mean, I do not understand Donald Trump. He thought he was going to bring peace to Ukraine in one day. Good luck with that. He's done a really good job on the 20-point plan in Gaza. At the very least, Israel's got their hostages back. They've got 3 dead bodies still remaining. But let's face it, getting the live people back was the #1 priority for everyone in Israel, and I think for any normal human being. The only killing that is going on right now is being done by Hamas, and everything else is, it's all their fault at the end of the day. But when it comes to Ukraine, he sees it so clearly in Israel and so badly, literally like he's blinded over Ukraine. He's looking at this point, this 28-point plan. And it's extraordinary, this plan, because basically saying to Ukraine, apparently agreed between Putin and Trump, that basically you can, Ukraine not involved, you basically get a load of territory that you've already conquered in Ukraine, in eastern Ukraine, but you also get a whole load more, hundreds of miles more, which is crucial sort of fortress areas which protect, central Ukraine. And although you won't get it legally, it won't be recognised by the UN, you get it realistically, and you have to pay rent to Ukraine for it. They'll get control of those people. Well, we know what Russia does to Ukrainian people. It kills the men, it abducts the children, it rapes the women. We know that because they've done it wherever they have conquered. And basically saying to Ukraine, tough, there's nothing you can do about it. This is worse than appeasement. This is full surrender.
It is, and it's very similar to the 2022 Istanbul plan that was rejected by Ukraine when Russia was seen to be in an even stronger position. It's quite clear that Russia is in a much weaker position at the moment, and
so is Ukraine.
Yes, but Ukraine is hurting Russia more than Russia's hurting Ukraine at the moment. And UK Defence Intelligence has assessed how long it would take at the current rates of advance of the Russians to capture that territory that is proposed to be handed over. And it will be another 4 years and 2 million dead or wounded. Putin can't afford that.
He can. He doesn't care.
Well,
he literally does not care about Russian lives, let alone Ukrainian lives.
He can't afford the 4 years where Ukraine is ramping up the number of attacks that are hurting the Russian economy, are bringing the war home to the Russian people, something that Vladimir Putin has tried very hard to protect.
Those young men, exactly, they're way more wounded than dead, but the wounded are coming back, with amputated limbs, with serious injuries, and he can't hide it. It may not be on the TV, but he can't hide the reality.
And it's more than that. It's, Russian industry is beginning to creak because they're cutting workforce back. They haven't got enough people to populate their factories. People are having to queue for fuel. Fuel prices are going through the roof. That's impacting food prices and everything else. That's going through the roof. And the people in Moscow and St. Petersburg, who are the only ones that Putin really cares about, are beginning to question what's going on because their airports are being shut down regularly because
they can't travel anywhere as well. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing, the impact. Again, I'm a big fan of Trump. These secondary tariffs on India. You want to buy Russian oil? That's fine. You're going to be hit by big tariffs, and that actually worked. Again, it just frustrates me because we know that the West could have done a stranglehold on Russian finances and their ability to fund this war, and they haven't. At the end of the day, if Trump says this is Biden's war, Putin's war, it's not my problem, I'm pulling out, I'm not even going to, he's not giving any money to Ukraine, but he's selling weaponry to the Europeans who are then giving it to Ukraine.
And he's not going to stop doing that.
He's not, because he wants the money and he wants the jobs. But we need the Europeans to step up more than they have done. At the end of the day, people, again, just finally, what do you say to the people who go, we just want peace. You're warmongering. Why don't you want peace? Isn't that better for everybody?
At the end of the day, this is a decision for the Ukrainian people. So Donald Trump can try and impose something on them. Vladimir Putin's been trying to impose something on them for the last 4 years and has failed. But it's up to President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people to accept or reject it. And I suspect they will do what they've done beforehand and reject it. And they will fight on if they didn't get any support from the Americans.
What's the point of fighting for the last 3.5 years?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And again, which part of our country would we give up? And whenever I've suggested that, people do actually suggest London, Liverpool and Norwich have come up quite often as places. That's a joke.
I'll add Birmingham.
Yeah, Birmingham. You live in Birmingham. Right, a bit harsh. Good luck going back to Birmingham today. Let's talk about the threat here from Vladimir Putin as well. The Defence Secretary John Healey was very serious yesterday, talking about how we've got a Russian ship that has been basically, sailing around Britain and has basically been mapping our cables, our cable network. It's also a ship that's capable of cutting cables, rather crucial for an island nation. And he's basically warned you go into our territorial waters. Again, there's going to be trouble. The use of a laser to try and blind the pilots who were monitoring. I mean, a hostile act. Is the threat that we're going to take action? Is that good enough?
Well, the spy ship Yantar has been around our waters frequently over the last few years, and not just around British waters, but also around Irish waters. And we have to protect Ireland because they can't protect themselves. But this is the first time that the Secretary of State or anyone's come out and said that a directed energy weapon, which is what a laser is, has been fired at one of our... It's not a toy. Has been aimed at one of our maritime patrol aircraft, our Poseidon P8 aircraft that fly out of RAF Lossiemouth in the north of Scotland. Now, our Poseidons are armed with torpedoes, and therefore, if you've got a directed energy weapon fired at a military aircraft from a military ship, a spy ship, then the pilot of that aircraft is well within his rights to warn it, and if it happens again, then drop a torpedo on it.
But if they are in international waters, they're crossed in and out, that's that 12-mile...
Yeah, there's a 12-mile limit. They stay outside the territorial limit, so they're in international waters. But again, if you've got something that is firing on a military aircraft, a military ship firing on a military aircraft, and a laser is a weapon, then the
you should
aircraft
expect the response.
It's perfectly within its rights and international law to defend itself.
And here we are once again, Putin quite literally testing the waters.
Yeah, he is.
And again with the drones flying over airports and things in the Baltic states, and again just testing the waters, and we must not fail that test.
Correct.
I have a feeling we will.
Yeah. Well, I think we will.
Because we're just so terrible. I think John Healey talks the talk and he's got a very good sombre tone and things, but I don't think ultimately this is going to be a decision for him. It's going to be a decision for Keir Starmer. I think Keir Starmer is a lily-livered human rights lawyer who does not really understand that you have to not just talk strong, you have to act strong.
100%. John Healey had some very strong ideas for how to sort the Minister of Defence out before Labour came into power. I sat down and talked to him about some of these. None of what he talked about, none of his ideas have been implemented because everything is controlled by Number 10.
Exactly, as it is on everything. Let's talk about things that always end up on Number 10's doorstep. Nearly 500 migrants a day. I know, it's just mind-blowing, are signing up for benefits. It's claimed by foreign nationals have hit a record high. Last month, 472 migrants a day began claiming universal credit. The overall number of foreign nationals receiving it's risen to 1.3 million. It's a rise of 6.7% in just a year. This comes, of course, after the Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has said that she's going to be announcing new laws today making migrants' rights to settle in the UK dependent on not claiming benefits. This just puts paid to this abject nonsense we've had for years. That migration, legal migration to this country is an economic benefit, not if people are on minimum wage or on benefits. It's not. And again, this would be an awful lot of people who've come here, who've worked, maybe on low wages, maybe they've done the work the Britons won't do. Well, that's because the wages are too low, and then and our benefits are too high. There you are. You can solve that one, guys. And then you. And then after a few years, they get settled status, and then they can claim benefits. Now, a lot of those people will be EU citizens, and there was just that deal to get the Brexit deal over the line, right? British citizens in Europe will be able to claim benefits there, and your citizens will be able to claim benefits here. But I mean, it's just not going to fly with the British public anymore.
It doesn't, and I think anyone who is not a British national there should be a net benefit score done every year. And that should be integration of society, contributing financially, and all the rest of it. And you have to get above a certain level every year to be allowed to stay.
Well, so you'll say every year. I mean, even Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, say it'd be every 2.5 years. Not that, by the way, we have the staff to do these assessments every 2.5 years of people and reassess their right to stay in the country. This is particularly for people claiming a sort of asylum status. But again, it's just like this idea that we just have all these people. Everyone says, "Oh, we've got a population crisis, not got enough kids." Yeah, but let's import a load of people from abroad who don't necessarily share our values, who on low incomes, often working. Mum doesn't work, dad works part time on benefits, having more kids. Yeah, let's scrap the the 2-child benefit cap on that. $3.5 grand, $3.5 grand a year extra the Labour are going to let families have for each child that they're already not able to support. I mean, you're just in insane territory. The idea that this is going to solve all our economic problems. I mean, these people are mad.
They don't understand. This is taking money away from where money should be spent. And if you're a refugee or an asylum seeker or someone that's here because been brought in to add benefit to the country, once you stop giving that benefit, you shouldn't be allowed to stay.
Yep.
Sorry.
But then there are an awful lot of people, the BBC types, the Lib Dems and things, who are sort of, these people have a right to stay. No, they don't.
No, they don't.
You see, when you say we're going to send them home, that's because it's home.
Yeah.
I could live my entire life in America or in Bangladesh, but it wouldn't be my home unless I had legally become a citizen of that country, or if I, or if I was born there. No, that's just not how the world works. This debate is always completely skewed by the fact that so many people who are arguing this in the public domain, every NGO, every charity, most government ministers in most parties so far, the lawyers, the media are all signed up to this idea that they don't really think that borders are a thing. Apart from Ukraine, on that side, they're okay. But they don't really think the borders are a good thing at all, or a thing at all. And that people really should, there's no such thing as an illegal, and people should really be allowed to live wherever they want to live. And they just don't get it.
I think they'd have a different view if you just went and kicked their front door down and said, I'm taking over your lounge today. By the way, you can only have your kitchen on Fridays. But these are the same people that will turn around and say, whenever cries go out saying we're giving free this and free that out, to the government, to people, that they'll go, free, it's brilliant, you're getting it for free. No, you're not.
Free NHS.
We're paying for it. Yeah, exactly.
I really think we want an absolute rule that no government minister is allowed to talk about free school
anything.
Meals, free childcare, free NHS. No, taxpayer funded.
Yeah.
Taxpayer funded.
Yep.
That's so free at the point of your demand or need. Taxpayer funded. Someone has to pay for this stuff, and it's us. I also want to ask you, in relation, actually, it relates to this in terms of like what people just expect out of life. Times report today. This is the headline: half of parents regularly let their children off school if they're too upset. Now, I know, seriously, there's our economic decline. There is the end of the Britain that we know in one sentence. Survey on absenteeism. It says, a significant minority of parents have allowed absence for something as routine as getting a haircut. Yeah, because hairdressers aren't open after 4 o'clock, are they? Half of parents regularly allow their child a day off school if they just don't feel up to it. If they have an emotional absence, this is half of parents regularly let their child have an emotional absence. 26%, so a quarter, had permitted it once or twice. An average for 6 days off a school a year. That's one every half term are taken for mental health reasons among families that allow it. Seriously. And then they wonder why their kid can't cope at uni or in an apprenticeship, can't cope at work, or why our economy is in the doldrums. I mean, I'm sorry. The only time I genuinely, in the whole of primary school, I think my child had 5 days off that entire time, and on 2 of those occasions I had to ban her from going to school. It's like, no, you're too ill, you can't go to school. But I don't want to miss that. No, you need to stay home. And apart from that COVID, when she wasn't legally allowed in school, but it's just madness.
It's complete madness. I'm coming round to the belief that we need to start licensing people before they're allowed to become parents.
I mean, having a kid or having a dog, licence.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, though.
But, and the trouble is, and we're seeing this through society, these children will grow up thinking that that's normal, and therefore whenever they become parents, they'll go, well, I'll do the same, but I'll do a little bit more.
But not just parenting, in terms of their life, saying to their employer. I mean, genuinely, I've had employers say to me, they have people who say, oh, it's a bit wet today, I'm not feeling very
well, so I'm not coming in. Sorry, you're then not employed.
That's just, that's just not how life works.
I know what my mother would have done if I'd suggested that.
Well, again, I'm a doctor's daughter. We were never allowed time off. Have a couple of paracetamol, off you go. Oh, my head's hanging off. Never mind.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, there's a band-aid there. We'll stick it back on again. Away you go.
I mean, I know. It's just another world. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of that. Generally, on the parenting thing, you know how I feel about this.